The Philadelphia 76ers are predicted to cut ties with Nick Nurse after this tumultuous season they've had. It's largely been due to injuries to Joel Embiid, which has always been a case with him since being in the NBA, and the decline, seemingly, of Paul George. We're going to talk about that and everything that you need to know on that topic in this video today, but make sure to go down below, like the video if you enjoy what you saw here, comment on the video, let me know what you'd like to see or how you feel about the topic we're talking about today, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell for notifications so you'll be able to stay up to date with the NBA and everything you need to know around it. So without further ado, let's get into that. That's an article from the Sporting News that I actually found under the Philadelphia 76ers tab, and it's from TJ Morin. It says the 76ers predicted to cut ties with Nick Nurse in favor of signing former two-time NBA MVP as head coach. Now, if you're anything like myself, you might be, who is this? A two-time MVP? Who could that possibly be and be a coach of the Philadelphia 76ers that is better suited than Nick Nurse? I do think that Nick Nurse is a solid coach, definitely a little bit overrated at times, but when we look at what's happened this season, I don't necessarily think that it's his fault. We can blame him maybe for last year, potentially not even so much there, but definitely not this year. I mean, this year's been injuries to Joel Embiid, which nobody can prevent really at all. And then also Paul George's decline after the front office signed him to an absolutely massive deal in that trade. They know how much money he's getting paid, and that's definitely a issue. You need to know that if you're going to be paying a player that much money, they need to be a top player on the team, and if not, they're just a sitting asset that's really not doing much for the organization. Says the 76ers have had a horrific season, and they definitely need to make some changes this offseason. One of the biggest might be a coaching change, and luckily for them, there's a couple of options on the market. Fansided's Matt Rakowski predicted that the Sixers would move on from their current coach, Nick Nurse, in favor of former two-time NBA MVP, Steve Nash. Rakowski believes since the Sixers GM Daryl Morey is also on the hot seat, he might go for Nash to try and save his own job. I don't really know if that's the best situation to try to save your own job. Last time Steve Nash was a coach was with the Brooklyn Nets. He was a shooting coach with the Golden State Warriors. That worked out very well for them, obviously. But when we look at the Brooklyn Nets and what happened with them, with him over there with the big three, wasn't a good situation. I don't really know if firing Nick Nurse and hiring Steve Nash, in my opinion, is really going to save Daryl Morey's job or help the Philadelphia 76ers in any way. Right now, they're going into a rebuild, and it's really hard for owners to understand that. I find it a lot of times, especially when you're in a market like Philadelphia, and you're trying to kind of be in contention at all times to keep fan appeal, make sure people are going to the games, because it's very quickly that Philadelphia fans, if the team's not so great, will go very under in attendance, just like many teams in the league. There's only very few that doesn't affect. And then if they're very good, the attendance goes very high. Now, if you're the owner and you see Daryl Morey make this decision, fire Nick Nurse after bringing him in on a really large contract for a coach, and then signing Steve Nash and things don't work out, I definitely think that could mean the firing of Daryl Morey. With all the comments that have been made from players in the past, that could definitely be an issue for him. He's on the hot seat already, and that's not exactly what he wants to see, I'm sure, but it's the absolute truth, for sure. It says here that, but as said earlier, embattled GMs look out for themselves first. It always seems. Daryl Morey is not in fantastic shape at the moment, Rakowski wrote. Nick Nurse is probably a pretty good coach, but you know who is an even better coach? I mean, like always, all the time. The coach that the embattled GM brings in, it always works out. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, it's worked out in a lot of situations, sure, but I don't know if it always works out. That's definitely a little bit exaggerated there. I don't think bringing in Steve Nash, of all people as well, is the best situation. I don't really think he was the best coach over there in Brooklyn. He could be better suited as an assistant or the shooting coach like he was with Golden State, but as a head coach, he needs to show me more for me to feel really comfortable with that decision. Right now, it's a no for me. I don't think that's a better situation from the Philadelphia 76ers, but I mean, time could really tell and change things if there's some comments made with Nick Nurse. If there's some issues internally with the players, then, I mean, crazier things have definitely happened. It can make more sense. Still don't understand that Taylor Jenkins firing the other day, but that's a completely different topic. And, I mean, coaches right now have to feel like anything could happen after a move like that, for sure. Nurse has been less than mediocre in his time with the Sixers, it says. In his almost 2 seasons with Philly, Nurse has compiled a record of 70 and 85. Now, this season, I really wouldn't hold too much against him. The lineups that they've been running have been essentially G League players for a lot of the time. And Embiid's been injured. Paul George's been injured. Paul George has declined. They've got Caleb Martin. He didn't perform nearly as well as they want him to. They move him. Quentin Grimes has been great as of late. We made a video on that there yesterday. Make sure to go check that out about the Philly potentially being able to keep him this offseason. Very young, very good asset. But I mean, what has Philadelphia really done to improve their team? They got rid of Tobias Harris. They bring in Paul George. Paul George declines. So basically no upgrade at all. Joel Embiid's injured for the majority of the season. They don't have a third player because Tyrese Maxey as well has dealt with injuries this year. He's been the one who's been there the most. He is a great player, but he needs some help. Gershon Yabusele has been a good role player or fifth starter in my opinion, but I definitely wouldn't want him to be the second or third option, which is what it's turned into. You have guys, I mean, really with barely any NBA experience expected to be in these games. Lonnie Walker went over to the EuroLeague, came back, and now he's expected to take a lot of shots. It's a very weird situation. The lineups that they're running don't really make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of that has to do with why the investigation happened on the NBA's part to do with this Philadelphia 76ers franchise. Not to mention, Jared McCain had an amazing start to the year in his 23 games that he played, and then went down for the season with a torn ACL. So a lot of issues happening against the 76ers, and realistically, they need more consistency. They need injuries not be an issue, and they really need to find themselves. I mean, they have a guy like Kelly Oubre, who I think is very solid, a very good scorer, and is he utilized enough? Well, it really depends on the game, and he's also dealt with his fair share of missed time this season. It says here that as for Nash, he was a much better coach in his little over 2 years. He was 94 and 67 with the Nets and took them to the playoffs 2 of 3 years. That right there is not something that I would really be impressed with. The team that he had in front of them is much better than the 76ers team right now. I mean, you had James Harden, you had Kevin Durant, you had Kyrie Irving. They brought in old Blake Griffin and old Paul Millsap and old LaMarcus Aldridge. They had Joe Harris, one of the best shooters in the league. It was a much better team. And in the playoffs, they lost in the first round both years. So, I mean, they got swept one of those years. It doesn't really mean that he's a better coach than Nick Nurse, in my opinion. And that's why you need to look at more than just record. Look at the team that's around them. I mean, Steve Nash's situation that he had with the Brooklyn Nets, you could have put a lot of coaches in that situation. It would have worked out. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's a much better coach because of that, and that's why I disagree with this article on that front. But let me know what you got to think about this down below in the comment section. I love to hear from all you guys. Thank you all for the support once again. Make sure to go down below, like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one.